Hello, Quinn.
Hello, Quinn. Yeah.
How are you today?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah.
So, where are you actually?
I'm in London. I had a thing yesterday to do here, like an interview kind of thing for the news. And then there's also a deep water solo competition here that Quinn's doing. So I'm just coming down to kind of watch that as well.
All right, so, but you're not competing, not risking anything.
No, there's no way I could justify that to my coach.
Cool. So we were thinking we should just briefly start from the beginning first, like growing up, started climbing, that kind of thing, and then pretty swiftly moving on to the main thing, which is the Olympics, obviously, and then go back to some other questions if we have time. You're from York?
Yeah. Born in York, and then lived like just next to the hospital pretty much for my young life.
Right. And started climbing like 6 years old or something like that?
5. I started climbing at
5.
5. That was when I first went to a climbing gym. I think you had to be 6 years old to technically climb there, but yeah, my parents just said I was 6 and it was fine.
No ID check or anything?
No, I didn't carry ID back then. Maybe that's strange.
Maybe not. So I have a question here, which is basically, I mean, we all know you were a young prodigy and everything went super well, like from 11 and so on. But would you say that you choose climbing, or did climbing choose you?
Climbing chose me, I think, in more ways than one. Like the first way it chose me was that when I was 5, I was too young to understand why I wanted to climb. Like I just wanted to climb. You don't question stuff back then. Like if you're doing anything, it's because you like really just feel it and you want to do it. And in that way, it definitely chose me. And then since then, I think it started to choose me in a different way, in that it was less of a choice. It was more just like the momentum of that like initial kind of attraction to climbing that just carried on, and it was kind of just my path, and there was not that much I could do about it in a way.
But did you practice any other sports at the time? Or?
Yeah, I played football quite a lot. Like I had a team, and then I played, well, it was briefly for like Leeds Academy when I was young, like under 12s or something, or maybe even younger. So that was kind of my thing for a while, was football, and I was balancing that with climbing. And then I switched over. Just I had to make a decision. I can remember being in the car with my dad, like on the way to a climbing competition, driving past the like football pitch that I was supposed to be playing on that morning, but I'd had to cancel, and just being like, yeah, I can't do both. I've got to pick one, and I chose climbing, which was a great decision.
And at what age was this, you say?
That must have been about 10 or 11.
Mm. And so was climbing already pretty serious then for you?
Yeah, anything I did was pretty serious, and still kind of is in a lot of ways. Like I struggled to do anything half-heartedly. So even back then, it was like if I was doing it, I was like all in.
Was it at like indoor climbing all the time at the time?
Mostly because my parents don't climb. I have some people in my family that do climb, but not in my direct family. So they took me out climbing, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 times in my kind of young life. But predominantly it was just my dad taking me to the wall, and he would just sit in the cafe or like ask someone to like keep an eye on me, and he'd go and do something, and I just kind of get on with it.
And he never tried climbing himself?
He tried maybe for a week. There was like a period of time where he like I think just because before I was old enough to do it on my own, so he didn't have to wait around. He's like, maybe I'll give this a go. And then he tried it for a bit, but he didn't love it. It wasn't for him.
Mhm.
How they choose the climbing for you then? Why they went with you to the gym for the first time? Like
Yeah, I mean, I would climb everything. I loved it.
okay.
My mum told me the other day she has a book of stuff that me and my sister had said when we were young, and one of them at age 3, I told them that everything in life is boring except climbing, and that was like without any outside influence on it. I just had an attraction to it. Like I think a big reason they took me to a gym is just because otherwise I would be climbing all over the house and just like putting myself in situations that a mother isn't kind of too happy with.
And do you stick by that quote still?
No, absolutely not. Yeah, no, climbing is one of the most boring parts in a lot of ways.
Right, but you mentioned that anything you do basically you take seriously. I mean, if it's something good. So where do you think that comes from?
I don't think it can be put to a single thing. I think I must have some sort of just genetic predisposition for that. That is just always how I've been. I remember even when I was really young, that was one of my main personality traits. My dad is kind of like that as well. He's very competitive and will like give his all to whatever it is he's doing. And I think I was kind of reinforced to do the same, or had like positive reinforcement for that quality of really putting myself out there. Like if I was doing anything, no matter how ridiculous, like I had to just give it everything. I mean, we can get like deep as to why I do that. Like, but you know, this will turn into a therapy session. But kind of,
Let's.
but I think the main kind of point on that is that I just felt like I had to in anything. It still now doesn't feel like an option to just like kind of try at something. Like, I feel like you don't learn anything unless you like see it to the end.
So
But that's mean you like to suffer kind of like with the trainings and stuff.
Yeah. I guess you could say that. Yeah, yeah. I've definitely got better at that. Like now I feel I suffer less. Pain and suffering are very different things, I think. Uh, so I've gotten a lot better at being able to experience like physical discomfort without it like turning into suffering.
so again, you had success pretty early on, but do you attribute this success to you working hard, or I mean, mostly, or would you also say that you were a big talent?
Uh, I think part of my kind of confusion in my climbing journey and why there's been some ups and downs is because I never really understood why I was good or what I was doing right. I've had this conversation with my coach just because they coach a lot of younger kids as well and kind of just help smooth out that journey. It's quite difficult when you don't know why you're doing well. Or like from the outside, maybe it doesn't seem like you should be. Like I didn't climb very well. I definitely was naturally good at climbing, but it wasn't very pretty a lot of the time. Like I had a distinct style. I felt like I remember my first international competition. I competed in like skin tight jean shorts and Boreal links, like the women's Boreal links lace ups, which were way too big for me. And I like made finals in second place or something. And like, I had no idea what I was doing, really. I didn't have like a coach until later on. My parents don't climb, so I never really got any like technical training or anything like that. I worked really hard and I cared a lot and I was excessively determined. Like I just wouldn't let go. That was kind of my thing for a long time. Is I'd be on the wall for as long as it took. I just wouldn't let go, which got me quite far. But also like yeah, you get to a point where you don't really understand why you are better than some other people. Like it doesn't feel like you should be almost.
But were you also very strong? would you say?
Was I very strong? Yeah, I think so, but I was tiny as well when I was young. Like now I'm one of the tallest on the circuit, definitely, but that's only been in the last like 4 years maybe. Since I was 18, I kind of grew quite a lot. Like I was smaller than Max in like 2016 or something
Mhm.
when I was like 14. Like I was a really small kid who just, and I didn't have any muscle on me. Like my parents are both beanstalks. Like I just find it hard to put on like a lot of muscle. So I was strong, but in a different way. I wasn't physically more developed than other kids. I think I was mainly strong through willpower to just not let go.
Mm.
And when did you get your first coach then? We can...
So after that first international comp that I obviously looked very out of place at, one of the team coaches who is now my or kind of my coach, married to my coach, but she also coaches. So that was Ellie Howard. She was there and she spoke to me and my dad and was like, sat me down and was like, yeah, he's doing really well. He's like obviously got a lot of talent or whatever, but he also really could do with some like guidance on some stuff. So after that conversation, maybe a year or so after that, I like got coaching from her, and she had a team with like me and at the time I think only a few other kids. Like Holly was one of the, I don't know if you know Holly, was one of
Mhm.
the first on the team as well. So we kind of have come through that process from like 14 maybe together. Uh, and yeah, from there, I mean, I've been on Team Precision, which is what it's called since then, really.
The trajectory was pretty much straight up, right? With the, I mean, all the way to the World Championships in Moscow,
Yeah,
basically.
yeah. Essentially, yeah. I did just keep getting better. It never felt like that. It always felt like I was having to really fight for every victory or every good performance, and like there was a natural tendency for it to get worse, and I had to really overcome that. But I think that's just my like internal bias of oh no, things are gonna get worse. Like that's just kind of how I think a lot of the time. Um, but from the outside, like looking back, that period of time, I mean, things did just get better. They kind of stagnated a lot at youth comps. I couldn't make a podium for a long time. I made every single final at EYC in the lead, which must have been like just shy of 20, and I didn't make a podium until the last one I did. And but then after that, things did generally start getting better.
And you still made the finals, you said?
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah, I made I came like fourth, fifth, or sixth, I think, at maybe 12 in a row, which was quite hard for me, even though it's because I really didn't want to be selfish either in being like, oh, this is terrible. Like I'm coming fourth at a comp when like people around me like, no, that's incredible. Like that's you're doing so well. Like that's really good. But just me being me and being like hard on myself, I always expect the next one like to be better. It should be better. Like I should have learned from the last one. I should have grown from like whatever weaknesses I had, and I should be breaking through. But that's just not a really healthy way to think. Any kind of should statement doesn't really lead anywhere productive.
It was more like matter of time till you get the podium, or there was some big change which, like which pushed you even higher.
No big change really. It kind of, when I did eventually, it felt essentially the same as before. Like yeah, there weren't really any big changes, I think, until after. So that was in like 2019 when I made my first international podium, and then I made another like straight after that in bouldering, which I would not have predicted at the Youth Worlds. And then 2020 we went into lockdown, and then I made quite a lot of significant changes there, I think. And then 2021 I had a really good season.
So do you think this making the podiums and so on, do you think that changed a lot for you, like in like mindset wise?
Yeah, I think that was very helpful to signal to me that good things can happen to me, or I can be lucky, essentially.
Mhm.
I think that was the biggest change, is I never really felt like luck was on my side during comps. It always felt like I was just this one like tiny mistake away from something really good, or like something happened that just pushed me out of a podium, or someone had an exceptional performance, which is why they like did better than me in that, or I did terribly in this, or there was always like a reason, or that's how I saw it. Which again, like now I don't really agree with that way of thinking, but that's how I saw it. And then having a couple really good results when it maybe didn't feel like I had changed much or deserved it. It was like, oh, maybe like things are just starting to work out for me. Which just that kind of seed in my head, I think did actually help open up a world of opportunity.
And since then, I mean, the last couple of seasons, is that sort of similar in a way that you've been really close to? I mean, you made some finals and you've been close to some finals, but no podiums for a while. Has that?
Mm.
I mean, is that a similar situation? You say?
Uh, yeah, last as in the 2022, no, 2023 season. Yeah, that was like I had a pretty terrible time that year, generally speaking. Competitions as well. It just things just weren't clicking. It was kind of the feeling of I can't be lucky. Like things can't work out in my favor. Every competition there was just this tiny thing that would like affect everything. And I don't actually believe that it is luck. Like if it's consistently happening, it's not luck. It's probably self-sabotage or something similar. But now at the moment, I really don't feel like that. I feel more so than I've ever felt before, like I trust what is happening. And I just feel like things will work out as long as I kind of stick to my mission, and I'm very aware of myself and everything that's happening, and I kind of feel out the right path. At the moment, I just feel like things are going to work out.
So let's head into Olympic territory then. But we can start off with world champs in Bern last year, August, which was the first chance really to qualify. How did that go for you? Like how you felt and so on,
Yeah.
and how did you feel? Afterwards. How did you fancy your chances of actually qualifying? Yeah, take us through it.
Yeah. So World Championships, I think I knew deep down that I wasn't going to do very well at that competition. Just coming off the back of the year that I'd had, I already felt pretty exhausted by the time we got to there, mostly emotionally, but also physically. Like I just wasn't in great shape. I didn't really know why, but I just knew that that was how it was. So that was a hard competition to have to go through, kind of trying to psych myself up to be optimistic and like just let things happen and see what happens. But kind of in my core, I've always known for that competition that it just wasn't gonna be my day. I didn't feel great. I wasn't in a good headspace. I got kind of ill beforehand, which I also don't think is coincidence. I think I was just really, really stressed in that year. and that was kind of making me physically ill as well a lot of the time. Like I was really dizzy, like throughout the competition. Like I was just like nauseous and dizzy kind of whenever I was at the venue. There was just a lot of like factors outside of climbing that were causing me a lot of stress, I think. And then after that, I kind of knew I needed to change some things. Like I was doing like my way of living and my process and everything really needed to change. And it was around that time that I started doing a lot more self-discovery and kind of asking myself the right kind of questions and looking at myself and my life and what needs to change and thinking about the questions that I don't ask myself, which are like, what would happen if I stopped competing? That was a big one. I remember the first time I had that thought, which was at the end of 2023, and I've never in my life let myself have that thought before. It was like I have to. It was like an obligation. It was like a part of my personality almost that I was a climbing competitor, which is kind of ridiculous. Like it's so weird to me now in a way that I just whenever that question would rise up, like I'd feel it and it would get shut down and it would never like actually get to somewhere where I can think about it. So I remember when I first actually thought about it and it was so freeing. And from that moment, I think a lot of other like thoughts and kind of self-discovery kind of was facilitated and could happen. And over the winter, I did a lot more kind of work on my self outside of climbing and removing a lot of the stuff I'd built up around my identity as a competitor and all of this, which just stems from like being a child who wants, to do well because it feels good and you get like some status and validation, and like that's what kids want. And then over time that just evolved into something which was completely fundamental to my worldview, and it didn't need to be. And that's kind of what I'm still doing now, is trying to unravel a lot of that, which is getting harder and harder. Kind of the closer I got to the Olympics, the harder and harder it got to stay on that journey, because like there's like a more and more chance of validation occurring. Like the closer I got to qualifying. So when I was at Shanghai, which was a really good comp for me, like I loved it and I did well, but I also just loved it. Like it was so fun. And a big part of that was that right up until the event, I was like okay if I didn't compete. I'd accepted that I wasn't gonna go to the Olympics. I didn't really want to. I kind of accepted that as well. And I accepted that I probably wasn't going to qualify anyway. I had a bit of an injury and it just wasn't really going to be for me. And because of that, I performed really well. And then it got kind of harder to have that kind of mindset. Like that became more forced leading up to Budapest. It was a lot more forceful to remind myself of all these things. Then in Budapest, there was like a struggle to keep my head in the right place and not get sucked into, I just got to come top 12. I've just got to come top 12, or whatever. Like those kind of thoughts, which are completely the opposite of what makes me proud in myself, which is kind of the bigger picture thinking. And then now I've qualified, it's even harder leading up to the Olympics to maintain, like stay on top of these thoughts and not get sucked back into the old ways of being that we kind of revert to under stress, especially, or under pressure or expectation. Like that is like the perfect breeding ground for old thoughts and defense mechanisms to rise up, which in my case is to take it way too seriously, put my identity and my whole life on the line, and just make it kind of not fun and really serious.
But then again, even qualifying for the Olympics, that is a success in itself. right? Although I realize that once you're there, it's
That's
not,
again.
yeah, same thing again. Yeah.
Yeah, it is it's like it felt like it was gonna be a success right up until I guess the day after I'd qualified, and then you forget about that goal, which was to qualify, because suddenly you've got a new goal, which is the Olympics, and like to final and then to win. Like it, as soon as for me, as soon as I finish a goal, it's like a lot of the joy that I thought I would experience upon reaching it is just drowned out by the next goal which comes in. So you don't actually, for me, just because I'm always like wanting more out of my life. It's like once something has been achieved, the next thing just kind of comes in like a tidal wave, and it's like, oh, this is now all my energy goes into looking into the future instead of just being content with having achieved something, which in the grand scheme of things doesn't actually mean all too much. It's just like a arbitrary goal, and it's like I don't need these big highs and lows anymore.
I think
Just hope that everyone can sort of treat the Olympics as an experience, like something that you get to like experience exactly, and to actually be present there and enjoy it somehow. But I totally get what you're saying. It's the same thing as climbing a new grade, right? Like once I climb 7A, 8A, 9A, whatever, it's like I'm gonna be happy. No.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a ancient lesson. I mean, it's so obvious as well. I feel like an idiot saying it almost in that everyone knows it. Like it's in every like life lesson will tell you something similar, but it almost doesn't matter because it's not about what you know to be true. It's about what you feel. Like there's so much that I know, like how I want to act and how I want to feel and the things I want to change in myself, but it's not about that. It's about deep down under all these like layers of kind of fluff you're putting on top of it, what you feel and what your like heart is guiding you towards is what matters. And if that is like these old mechanisms of seeking validation, then got to be honest and like admit that that is what you're doing. There's no point in being in like telling everyone you're really process oriented all the time when like deep down you're being like guided towards seeking a goal for the sake of winning.
it's kind of hard to not get lost in that, right? So you have some goal and you completely forgot why you do that actually, because you see just the goal and you can completely forget why you climb.
Yeah,
and maybe it's also better to, like you said, admit it and actually accept it, that well, this is going to be a part of it. I can't really fight it too much. It's going to be like that.
Yeah, I mean, I want to do that for the time being. I think that is the first step, is accepting what is kind of unchangeable, well, not unchangeable, what is fundamental and what is kind of at the bottom of it all. Accepting that it's there is great. But I don't think it is unchangeable. Like I do want to arrive at a place, or not arrive, that's the whole point, is that you're not arriving anywhere, but to find myself at a place where I'm less reliant on that, or where it's maybe been replaced with kind of a genuine, like really genuine attraction to just enjoying the moment or experiencing the moment. Like that would be really cool and really different to what most of my life has been like.
Do you think anyone else is there?
I don't think really anyone else in the comp scene could be, because also it's like if you genuinely were there at that place, which I think is exceptionally hard to get to, why would you still compete? Like, why would there wouldn't be any reason to still compete. Like, I mean, comps do bring, you could say, like, bring these really cool moments and whatever, but like the point of what I'm saying is that so would everything else, and you wouldn't need the layer of beating other people, or you just wouldn't want to get involved in a world which is designed around like beating other people. So I find it hard to kind of imagine myself staying in competitions forever. The more these thoughts kind of evolve, the more I feel it necessary to at least spend some time away from them, to allow that kind of inner part of me to develop away from this like stimulus of trying to win.
And again, like I guess that to be able to feel that exact joy of winning, well, you have to care about it. Like it has to be important to you. So
exactly, yeah, and it's not. I really don't think it's a bad thing. Like, of all the paths of life, I mean, it's a really cool job, and it is a game. At the end of the day, it's not. It's still like fun. Like you can have an incredible life, I think, being a competitor and being competitive. Like, I don't think it's a bad thing. I just personally imagine a place in which I'm not reliant on it, in which I could move away from it and be okay. Like, that is what I want, is to be at a place where I don't need to prove myself to anyone or to myself. Like, that is kind of where I'm wanting to get to.
So regardless if you're going to keep competing or not, how would this sort of change in the mindset that you're seeking? Would it work outside, like on rock, if you're pursuing? Wouldn't it be the same thing, like chasing the dura or harder or whatever?
Yeah, that would be the exact same thing. You're right. Yeah. There's not many like jobs where it doesn't really help to be competitive. Like in photography or finance or whatever. Like, you have to try and be better than other people to justify getting paid, which is fine. Like, it is just how the world works. But kind of what I'm getting at is less practical. Like, I don't have like a practical approach to it. It's just a dream. Like, it's just like a hypothetical. Maybe I can move a little bit more towards that. Like, I still want to try hard stuff, and like I want to really enjoy competing and winning for the right reason. That's all it is, really. It's for the right reason. Like, you can enjoy climbing hard outside for the right reason, I think. And you can also enjoy it for I don't want to call it the wrong reason, but for, being like the best. Like, that is also, I don't think it's bad. I think it has a time and a place, and it's not to be, you don't want to get sucked into it. If you want to do that, you've got to treat it like a game, and it's fun to like play that role, but it shouldn't become your personality. Like, well, I don't want to say shouldn't again, but it ideally will not become like all I'm doing is trying to beat other people, climb the hardest thing, win the most competitions. Because it just sounds exhausting. Well, it is exhausting, I think.
Yeah, and I guess that the holy grail would be to be able to enjoy competing and winning, and not necessarily fall into the deep abyss if you don't win. Like,
yeah, and maybe one way around it, which I've been toying with, is, so we call it a performance, like it's a climbing performance. Like that's just the turn of phrase which has been chosen for it. And I think it can be really accurate if you treat it very much like that. Like it, as if I was acting, as if I was playing the role of Hamish McArthur, the great competitor who, goes out onto the stage and does all these crazy things and wins the competition. And if I have an awareness the whole time that I'm playing that role, it could be a lot more fulfilling than if I fully embody that role and see that as myself. Because that allows you to also play the role of all sorts of other things without getting really attached to them as you, and it just gives you more freedom to do more kind of cool things with your life without just becoming so narrow-minded that, like I have done until pretty much now, that like this is my one path and I just got to follow this, and I put the blinkers on and I just go like hard at this one career until I've exhausted all my potential, and then I'll reassess. Like I would much rather now play lots of different roles and kind of see everything as a bit of a game and a bit of kind of fun, be a bit removed from it almost. At least I want to try that. Maybe in 10 years' time, I'll be like, what the hell was I doing then? Like, that was an awful kind of way of looking at the world. But I've definitely got to a point where I just want to change something.
Do you compete with the other people or with yourself? It's for you important to win the competition or to know you did all the best and the other people, they have been better for some reason, but you couldn't perform better.
Yeah, that would be an ideal way to view it, and I've tried really hard to do that. But if I'm being honest, like my happiness after competing a lot of the time is dependent on where I rank against other people. Like, yeah, I mean, in anything you could say like I couldn't have done any better because I didn't do any better, and therefore I couldn't have done any better. Like what happened, happened, and that's unchangeable, and therefore it's not even your fault or responsibility if it's unchangeable. It just is the way things are. Yeah, I still feel always like I should have done more. I could have done better. I shouldn't have, dropped that move or let this person beat me, even when it's out of your control. It's, for me, it's really hard to move away from like you literally get a list of like who's the best, and you can see where you rank on it. Like if you come 30th or whatever, it's like, oh, there's 29 people who are better than me, and you get a like physical list of that. That's so weird. It's like
And
such
even I guess, yeah, I guess even if you feel that you have done your best and you couldn't have changed anything, I mean, then thoughts go towards preparation, right?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, then it's like, yeah, you just look back into the, last week and what did I do wrong there, and then the last month, and the last year, and like when I was younger, maybe if I had a coach sooner, I would have been better, and then I'd be so much happier and all this. So yeah, I know it's not really a good, like it's not really a healthy kind of way to see it, but
You cannot change it, huh?
a lot of my instinct is to just look at where I rank and judge myself based on that.
I was just thinking, have you, I mean, you obviously think a lot, so have you thought a lot about potential weather in Paris and how you, I mean, August in Paris could be, scorching hot, basically. And I mean, it must have been a problem in Budapest to climb so much in so few days in such heat.
Yeah. Yeah, and as you can probably see, I'm quite a pale Brit. I'm not one of these like golden, I don't know, Mediterranean climbers who spend all day outside and are used to it. Like that is definitely something which I have to manage a lot just to not get heat stroke and pass out. That was my routine at every like hot competition when I was younger. As I just like spend 5 minutes in the sun and then just get heat stroke and throw up for the rest of the round. So yeah, I thought about it. I got better at managing it just with bringing tons of ice with me and just covering myself in ice. It really helps. There's not much you can do. Like the weather's the weather. It's gonna be worse friction on the wall. Same for everyone. Just gotta try and keep your skin cool. That's the main thing for me because I got pretty sweaty skin. So I just have to I have my fan and I have ice and I'll have like a icy wet towel around my neck and like this kind of that's about it. It's quite primitive, but it does the job.
Yeah, and about skin, how do you
Yeah.
manage your skin? Do you warm up in tape or gloves or?
I try leading up to the competition to make sure I have the best skin I can do because it makes such a difference, even just psychologically. Like warming up in tape or gloves sometimes can psychologically throw you off a bit, I think. I want to feel really good in warm up. And I want like also if you put tape on and then you take it off and you've been sweating underneath, your skin is just soft and mushy and is even worse. So that's the main thing really is I just like try and make sure I go into the comp with the best skin I can and not to waste any in warm up, not to like do too many slappy moves on holds to be really accurate. And in the Olympics, we don't have to do the qualification round, so we have to do one less round of climbing. So it's really only 4 blocks on a route and then finals. So over and then more spread out. Like in the Olympics, it's like boulder qualies, a day rest, lead qualies, a day rest, finals. Whereas in Shanghai, I did 6 rounds of climbing in 4 days or something, which was a lot.
Yeah, that's true. You correct. There's one less round, which makes a huge difference. But let's say in Shanghai or Budapest, during the rounds, if there were slappy moves, say, would you sometimes, well, hypothetically, I guess, have realized that I could make it another try and I could get further, but it's not worth it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the main thing is managing attempts. Like if you have 2 or 3 really high quality attempts on a skin intensive boulder, so much better to just do that than to have like 5 or 6 kind of less careful attempts. Like you can just understand that the more you try it, the harder it's gonna get to only have like 2 good goes, and if that's not enough, then it's like better than chancing it to pull on another couple times and hope to like somehow get through the section that you couldn't get through already.
Which is also, I guess, even more difficult with this format because attempts don't really matter so much.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It's a cool I like the format a lot. I like the 2 zones. I think it's a better representation of like who does the most climbing in a round. Where sometimes in like World Cup format, it's a bit more frustrating if you've done a lot more climbing than someone, but they've beaten you because they have just like did a block with 1 less attempt than you.
In Budapest, it was really hot, and you say it's like same for everyone, but I don't think so. It's like really same. It depends, if you start later of the day, the temperatures are much higher. So it would make maybe it's a sense to move it indoor, right? So that would be like fair for everyone then, right?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It would be great if it was in a climate controlled arena. That would be really like everyone would love that from the athlete side of things because it can make a big difference. Because I mean we've seen in like the Innsbruck World Cup, in the boulder round, like not with heat, but with rain. Like some people's rounds got massively disrupted, and some people got to climb in like perfect conditions. Could this be part of the sport? I don't really know like how realistic it is to move all climbing indoors. Like some sports are just kind of like that, I guess, and some aren't. Like cricket, like as soon as there's any rain, the whole match comes to a halt and it's stopped. But yeah, I'm not against it. Like I quite like the weirdness and the randomness. I think that allows the people who are better at dealing with weirdness and randomness to thrive a lot of the time. Like if it's all controlled, it becomes less about managing your emotions.
But then again, I guess it could make sense in climbing, since I mean, indoor climbing is usually done indoors, right? It's just the competitions that are outdoors. I don't know. It's pros and cons, obviously.
Yeah, like Chamonix, you're not going to get 10,000 people.
For sure, yeah.
Like I would much rather have 10,000 people cheering you on and it be raining than not, than have no one cheering you on and it be perfect conditions. I like that it's a spectacle, and I like that it's still climbing. Like we still like the amount of time we spend looking at the weather for going outdoor climbing. It kind of is also fitting that we do the same for comps, and it is frustrating when it like works out badly for you. But it's still managed. Like I just think put better roofs on places so it doesn't get wet.
Exactly.
Like we don't want any comps to be cancelled. If it's a bit hotter for someone, then it's like it's fine. Like it's okay. It works out on average, I think. You're not always in the same position.
True. And about Chamonix, you mentioned that you've chosen to only do the qualifying competitions this season.
Yeah.
Was that because of your injury or other reasons?
A little bit for my finger that I hurt at the end of last year, which is fine now. But at the start of the year, like for Cachao, I maybe just didn't want to push it too hard too soon. I also didn't want to do any World Cups this year. I just didn't sound that fun. That was the main reason, is it just didn't sound like it was something that I would actually enjoy. Now I think maybe I would a bit more. Now I've done some comps and have kind of found a bit of a new process. But yeah, I just was of the philosophy that you only need to win one lap, and my goal was to make the Olympics, and like I just showed up to the OQS events and did it my way, and just that was really important for me to do it my own way. That was the only way that I was ever gonna do well, because I don't think I would have been expected to have qualified really, like before the events. I wasn't a favorite, and I knew that the only way for me to kind of achieve that goal was to do it in my own way, and to just do what feels right to me. And that for some reason was that I just needed to show up at those events, and I just knew I'd perform.
So how it looks now, like we have less than months to Olympic. How looks your preparation now?
Trying not to change too much. The good thing about qualifying so close is that I know I'm in physical, like the right kind of physical shape, and all that really matters now is where my head is at. And the good thing about the Olympics from a competitive standpoint is a lot of people will be getting pretty nervous, I'm guessing, given that it's the Olympics, which means that it's a lot less predictable, which I like at this point. It's like I really like that kind of feeling of anything could happen, and I do just trust my process. Like I've gotten a lot better at just knowing what the right thing to do is in training without really knowing why. Like I just know what I need to do on each day without really knowing why. And the same goes for competing. Like at the moment, I have this feeling which I've not really had that much before, which is it's just gonna work out, whatever that means, whatever that's gonna look like. I feel like it's just whatever needs to happen will happen. And I feel like I can do some magic when I need to.
That's a great
Interesting.
feeling mindset to have, and I guess it's the Olympics especially is so much about sort of knowing or convincing yourself that I am the kind of person who will be able to I
Yeah.
mean make the magic happen. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
But you said you know what to do now, like, but you don't know why. So does it mean you don't have any training plan? You don't have any coach now, or how does it
No,
work?
I do have a coach, but we've gotten a lot better, as in me and Mark, at listening to that voice that I kind of have. Like he guides a lot of it. He has a general plan, but I'm very lucky that this kind of conversation we've been having here is also very open to. We've had a lot of kind of deep conversations about I mean everything really, and kind of how that feeds into training. And he trusts that my inner voice of what I feel is really important to listen to. So say he says today we're doing a circuit session, like we're going to be doing endurance, and I say, actually, I don't think I should do that today. I don't know why. Like physically, I could. I just have a feeling that is not what I should be doing today. And he goes, cool. We'll put that in tomorrow or the day after, and we can like slot this in today, and we can do a bit of this. And that's kind of how it's been working for the last few months, more so than ever before. Really, is we've kind of built that kind of relationship and dialogue, which is really helpful for me. Because I mean I've been climbing for years. Even though I'm 22, I've still been climbing for 17 years, and a lot of that was on my own. And I got pretty good without having a coach or anyone telling me what to do. So my intuition of what I should be doing is pretty solid at this point. And I think sometimes that is way wiser than what the science tells you of how many sets and reps you should be doing.
Okay, sorry. Do you have someone who helps you with the mental part of the game, or are you working on that on your own?
The same coach I like helps a lot with it. Like we have these kind of conversations. I've never seen a sports psychologist or anyone. I think I saw a just general therapist at some time last year, which was really helpful for just informing. Like we spoke about climbing and kind of my relationship with sports and all of this kind of stuff as well, which was really, really useful for like just this process and kind of my relationship with climbing and that I think is way more important than thing for me, at least, a sports psychologist who I've employed to make me better at winning. Like there's always going to be a bit of tension there if I know that I'm paying them to make me better at winning, not necessarily to make me happier. Like I think it's important for that conversation to be had with someone who is more prioritizing you than the outcome. And the same is with Mark, my coach. Like he cares a lot more about me as a person than my climbing, which is really helpful, I think, to trust him to have these kind of conversations.
But about getting into mindset, do you have some special routine or something that you always tell yourself before climbing?
I try. It's more of a feeling that I try and achieve, which is a feeling that it's like a feeling of openness that I don't know what's about to happen. Like allowing the really good moments to happen is important because in the past I've definitely, if I've not been in a good place mentally, I've almost not let those like special moments where you have a buzzer beater happen. Whereas now, before I get out on the mats or go for a lead route, it's like I'm just trying to be as open as I can to anything happening. Like maybe I'll have this incredible moment where I do this boulder with a couple seconds left and it's just perfect, and I look at it for years and go, how the hell did I do that? Like those kind of moments I'm just trying not to rule out.
Do you listen to music in the ISO? Or...
No, I listen to a lot of music outside of climbing. I mean, outside of like competitions. Like even when in training, I'm almost always listening to music. But in competition, I found that I don't need to get hyped up because I'm already gonna be like at the right level of hyped up. Like I actually have to try and bring that down a lot of the time. It's never gonna be a problem that I'm not like ready enough in that sense. And then other than that, I just don't. I realize that I personally don't like having like extra input in that situation. Like to have the openness means to not attach yourself to a specific kind of mood. And in the competitions where I have listened to music, it's sometimes thrown me off if I've been listening to like I carry the mood of the song into my like sensations and then into my climbing. And sometimes the song doesn't actually, it's not like applicable to what you need for the climb.
Mhm.
So I've kind of learned for my process, it's better to just have nothing and to just try and let anything happen.
And what about the other climbers? You know, in isolation, if you warm up and so you watch them and then you say, "Wow, they are," you know, like you see they are strong. Or how did it work with your head? This
Yeah,
kind of inputs.
I try and not like look too much or like pay that much attention because you're right, that is what would happen. Like if I see someone do a boulder, I try and not have the thought of, oh, I wonder if I could do that.
Mhm.
Like I always try and before any round, like lead or boulder, have a period of climbing in isolation where I do the kind of climbing that I'm really good at, like big moves, like small holds, like yeah, really big moves on small holds, essentially. Which makes me feel like I'm the only person in this room who could do this, like that, because that's what everyone is doing. I'm sure. Like if you try and like
Yeah.
replicate what everyone is doing, it's like they're probably doing the same. They're just like doing a move to make them feel good, which is their kind of climbing. And that, yeah, I do the same. It's like I want to feel ready, and I want to feel like I'm like I have something special about me in a way. Like there's some part of me which is like really at the level that I need to be at. And also to make it about yourself, because otherwise, yeah, you will look at everyone else and go, wow, they're all such amazing athletes and climbers, and like maybe I don't fit in here. But if you make it about yourself and do a kind of climb that you feel really confident in yourself about, and it makes you feel good, and it kind of makes it about yourself. And I sometimes like to beat myself on the chest a little before I go out, which to me just signifies this like bringing it all into me. And this moment is about myself and my experience and doing everything I can. And it's not about how other people have done or like all the other shit around competing, climbing, whatever. It's like brings it into myself, and then I just get to go out and kind of express that.
Interesting. I think maybe it's time for some short questions, quick ones.
Yep.
Starting with boulder or lead?
Boulder currently, I think.
And I mean, you already mentioned your strength which is big moves on small holds. But what is your weakness?
Presses. I'm not good at presses.
Is that because of you're a bit taller than most, that you don't fit into the box usually, or?
I think that makes a difference, but also I think just like shoulder mobility is something I've been struggling with a little bit. I've worked on it a lot and I've got better, but it's still like if I see a boulder which is all like here, I'm quite weak in this position.
Okay, we won't tell the setters in Paris.
Yeah, I shouldn't have said that.
Lessons from the injury period.
Maybe the most valuable thing that I learned from that was like constantly having an excuse. It's really good for training because there's always like if I don't do a climb, it's because of my finger. It's not because I'm not good enough for it. So that was quite an interesting one, which I think did make a big difference. Other than that, I just got a lot better at pulling less with my arms. I've gotten so much better at like using my legs and hips, which is very, very helpful for all kinds of climbing.
I guess it's pretty good to be forced to try and find different solutions.
Yeah, it made me creative again, which is cool. Yeah.
And the next one is, do you know any climbers with small hands that are good?
Yeah, Max has pretty small hands. He's really good. He's
Yeah,
also
it's
pretty
really
good on like even on like big pinches. Like he quite often will hold something with like on a big pinch with like his index finger not on it and just these three. And yeah, he's like still exceptionally strong on those kind of holds. So
So how many one-armers?
how many one-armers in a row?
Yeah, in a row.
Good question. I haven't actually tested that. Maybe 5?
Both hands?
If I was like ready, 4 or 5, kind of somewhere in the middle. I don't know at the moment, but I'm being ambitious there. I've never done that, but I reckon I could.
And is there a huge difference you feel between your right and your left? Not in terms of one-armers, but in general, a big difference, like left and right hand.
Yeah, yeah. Left arm like used to be way better at one arms and like bicepy stuff. And now right hand currently is quite a lot stronger because I injured my left hand a bit, which meant I just didn't like my left hand is really strong in drag now because that's all I did for a while. But my right hand is really strong on like a crimp or pinch, or I mean, yeah, they're catching up. Like the left's catching up again. But there's a period of time where I had like an endurance arm and a strength arm, which is
Right.
which is quite fun to climb like that. Like if I had to rest, my left arm, just because I didn't use it as much for a period of time, was so loose and like it didn't get pumped, but it also was quite weak. And my right arm would get pumped so fast, but it was really strong. So like tactically, lead climbing like that was interesting because I'd always like rest and clip on my left, and then like try and do as many hard moves as I could, like prioritizing my right arm.
So again, something we won't tell the root setters.
Yeah.
But you could get lucky, I guess. Like we do.
Good. Maybe they'll like me and they'll use this for my benefit.
And also, we said one armor. So pistol squats. How many pistol squats can you do?
How many pistols? Quite a lot, I reckon. Maybe I don't know what quite a lot is. How many pistol squats could I do?
1?
I could definitely do 1. I could probably do like up to 10 maybe. I feel like.
Do you have naturally strong legs, or did you work for it?
I don't know. I feel like I've always been good at pistol squats. I don't think I've got that strong legs, but I just can do them. I'm not sure why.
Kind of different questions that I got regarding the European Championships in football.
Oh yeah.
Because someone told me that it's actually more important that England loses than whoever wins. Why do you think that is?
Well, I mean, where my mind goes is that I'm a Scotland supporter, and they obviously did terribly. But being a Scotland supporter usually means supporting whoever is playing against England. That's just kind of like what goes with it. So that's the way I interpret that question. Is it? I don't know if that's the answer.
But Scotland supporter, how come?
My dad's side of the family is Scottish, and that's just how I grew up. It was like, yeah, always like I feel very Scottish, even though I'm not really. My name is, I think that helps. But I just, through and through, I feel like I'll support Scotland in anything.
I had one thing here about outdoor climbing. You have done some outdoor climbing, of course. And you've done what, 9A and 8B plus flash for Boulder?
Yeah, that wasn't actually, it's probably 8B, or it wasn't. It was given 8B plus originally, but it wouldn't get that probably now. Probably 8B or 8B plus.
Okay, but regardless, do you think that accurately reflect your current level?
Nah, I don't think so. I think I could climb. I mean, like physically, I could climb hard, like 8C plus 9A boulder. I reckon, like in my physical form, if I like worked it for enough time. I really believe that. And in lead, I think it's like 9B plus maybe. Again, if I like put the time in on something, I'd back myself to do that. I just haven't actually put that much effort into outdoor climbing. Like I've not done any boulder that has took me more than a day. Like I've never sent a boulder that I've worked for multiple sessions outside, I think. Or a route. Yeah. No, that's not true. I did a route over 2 days. Yeah. Never mind.
Yeah.
But I just never I will. I cannot wait to do more outdoor climbing. I'm just being quite single-minded with indoor and not put too much into that.
I can't help wondering when you see, Will, when he stopped competing and started climbing more boulders and more outdoors, what happened? And now you look at Aiden, who's done a couple of 9A boulders recently. And I mean, the question I'm asking myself is, if we set all the competition specialists loose, go climb rock for 2 years, what would happen,
Yeah, a lot. Yeah, I mean, there'll be a lot more 9As being done. I have no doubt. Like Simon Lorenzi, for example, still like he was at OQS. He's made boulder finals in World Cups. He's like a competitor, absolutely. But he's also done like how many 9A boulders now? 3 or something.
Yeah.
So like he's just an example, I think, of how strong you have to be to compete at this level. Like a lot of people I think overlook like the physical aspect of competing. Like even though most of the boulders we get don't require you to be a really physically strong climber, like through the fingers, every now and then you get a boulder that does, so you have to be able to do it.
Yeah, you have to be also so much more rounded, I guess, to be able to do anything. If you only climb outdoors, you can really specialize.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and I think through competing as well, you get really good at actually sending stuff. When like you get really good at like locking into that process of like, this is the attempt, I'm gonna do it this go. So I think quite a lot of hard stuff would fall pretty fast.
Yeah.
So now outdoors is not your focus, which is very clear. Olympic, right? But you have some future plans?
Yeah, I mean, a couple of days after the Olympics, I go to Squamish for a month and a half or something, and just go climbing there. Yeah, which I can't wait. That's been in the back of my mind throughout the whole season this year. It's just like that's gonna happen no matter what. I can't wait to just be there and enjoying nature and climbing and friends and beer. And it'll be good.
I have a technical question as well.
Hmm.
I watched this video you did with Epic TV.
Oh God, yeah.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
no, nothing like that. But I noticed you said Vibram, they made a pair of shoes for you with special rubber. Would you be allowed to compete in those?
No, I haven't competed in those. They were just for training mainly. The kind of big reason I wanted those was for my foot strength as well. Like really changes how you climb when you have like a stiff sole in your shoe. So I could have just got a softer shoe, I'm sure, but I also wanted to try this out and just to see how it kind of changed how I climbed. And it really helped me a lot. I think just you use your legs in a different way. Like recently, I've been wearing the Ondra comps as well, just because I got sent a pair of those. And the same thing, it's like I climb completely differently in a different pair of shoes, and you just learn so much more about body position and just like the tiny things when you have a slightly different piece of equipment on. It changes a lot through the whole chain from like foot to knee to hip to shoulder, like all of that moves differently when one thing changes.
And do you bring several pairs of shoes to boulder comps?
I usually just bring like two different pairs of comp solutions because I love that shoe so much, which are kind of worn in differently. So I have a slightly softer pair and a slightly like less worn in, stiffer pair, just for different styles of boulder.
Right. And would you ever? I guess you use the solution comp for lead as well, but would you ever consider like looking at the route and say that, well, I need a harder shoe here or a softer shoe?
The thing about solution comps, why I love them, I mean, the most well-rounded shoe I can think of. Like people have done like big wall, like L cap type climbing and like super hard multi-pitch at Yosemite and all over the world in solution comps. 9A boulders have been done in solution comps. 9C routes have been done in solution comps. World Cups, World Championships, all of this has been like competed in solution. Like they just do everything. There's not really anything they're bad at, which is why for competing, there's so like I can just trust them on anything. Like I don't need to really think about that, which I'm very grateful for.
Yeah, brilliant. And on the subject of shoes, what shoe size do you take in your comp shoes versus your street shoes?
So street shoes in UK sizes is like 10 or 10 and a half. So I think that's like 45, maybe.
44, no, 45, yeah.
Yeah. And then I wear like 40 or 40 and a half in La Sportiva climbing shoes. So quite significantly downsized.
Yeah.
Five size, yeah.
Yeah. Do you train in the same size?
I try and train in the slightly bigger ones, like the 40 and a half. But they're still quite small, but yeah.
And how long can you keep them on actually?
They feel pretty comfortable after a while. Yeah. It's probably not good for my feet to keep them on for that long. And I think you could very easily tell that by looking at my feet, which I am not gonna display on the screen.
That's probably a good idea not to.
but yeah, I mean it will change, I'm sure. This is just a period of my life where I'm quite like I know what I like in that sense. Like I know like for competing, it's important to have had a lot of practice wearing those shoes in the same size and the same kind of environment, for me at least. I don't want to change too much for now, but when I'm climbing outside, like it'll change. And you just will have shoes on for way less time. Like you'll just put them on for an attempt and then take them off. So I'm not overly worried about my foot health, but maybe I should be.
No, I don't think so. I mean, you're not the first, right?
Yeah, I'm not the first.
Kind of different question. You said you ask yourself, what would you do if you would stop competing? So what would you do? Something like you are interested in science and stuff?
Yeah. I would like to study at some point because I didn't go to university. I just finished school and then became a climber, full-time climber, which was great. But at some point I would, maybe like to study like neuroscience, I think would be my top pick, or neurobiology. So there's a lot of stuff that I'm interested in outside of climbing, but I don't really pursue it in like a formal way. I just kind of, I don't know, listen to a lot or read stuff or but I don't know when that would come into my life. It would have to come quite naturally, I think. I just will see if that ever, like, the opportunity arises for that to be a natural thing. If not, I mean, if I don't compete, I would still climb. And there's arguably more, like, it's easier to make a living as a non-competitive climber anyway. So for a while at least, I'd like to do that because I don't know what that feels like to be a non-competitive climber and just climb outside and, you know, do whatever with my spare time, read and write and paint and, you know, anything. Like it would be, I'd like to do that life for a bit. Sounds great.
Well, have you noticed any significant difference in terms of funding after making the Olympics?
It's a bit too soon to have felt the effect of that. But we'll see. I'm hopeful. I would like to be set up for being a dirtbag with financial security like that. That sounds kind of great. But we'll see. It's kind of out of my control a bit. I have a manager or agent who is like on top of this kind of thing, as far as I'm aware. So I just kind of leave that to him mostly and try and just focus on being myself and like the climbing side of it and the media side of it, and kind of leaving the rest of it up to him.
Yeah, sounds good. And fingers crossed that things turn out the way you want it. Right?
Yeah.
Thank you so much, and I speak for Vladek here as well, and we wish you all the best for the Olympics, of course, in Paris, and hope you can really enjoy it and be in the moment and as you wish.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. It was
Thank you so much.
a pleasure to
This is
speak.
an experience, and thank you very much for your time.
Of course. Yeah. I hope you both have a great day.
You too. Thank you so much again.
Bye.
Bye.